The stars looked peaceful from the bridge of the UES Defiant. Commander Ethan Miller stood with his hands clasped behind his back, watching the distant pinpoints of light. Each one might be a sun with planets full of life, or it might be a world, already conquered by the Zarkonians. For 20 years, the Zarkonian Empire had spread across the galaxy like a disease. They took over one star system after another. Their method never changed. They came with huge ships, told everyone to surrender, and destroyed anyone who fought back. Over 300 systems had fallen to them. The Zarkonians took all useful materials from these worlds to build more ships for their fleet. Miller rubbed his tired eyes. The Defiant was on a normal patrol near the edge of human space. Nothing exciting had happened for weeks. The crew was getting bored. But Miller knew that boring was good. Exciting usually meant dangerous in this part of space. "Commander, your coffee." First Officer Lisa Rodriguez handed him a steaming cup. "Thanks, Lisa." Miller took a careful sip of the hot liquid. "Anything new on the scanners?" Rodriguez shook her head. "Nothing unusual. Outpost Epsilon 9 sent their regular check-in 30 minutes ago. All quiet there, too." The Defiant was a mid-sized human warship with a crew of 200. Not the biggest in the United Earth Fleet, but certainly one of the fastest. Miller had commanded her for 6 years. He knew every bolt and panel of his ship. More importantly, he trusted his crew completely. "Sir," called Communications Officer Kelly Barnes from her station. "Incoming emergency transmission from Outpost Epsilon 9. Miller turned quickly, on screen. The main view screen flickered to life. The face of a young officer appeared, his features tight with panic. "This is Lieutenant Dale Winters at Outpost Epsilon 9. We have 3 large vessels that just appeared at the edge of our system. They match the description of Zarkonian warships. They're not responding to our hails and are moving toward the station at high speed. We need immediate assist." The transmission cut off suddenly. The bridge fell silent. Miller set his coffee down slowly. "How far are we from Epsilon 9? He asked, his voice calm despite the cold feeling in his stomach. Navigator Chris Powell checked his console. "At maximum speed, 2 hours and 17 minutes, sir." Miller nodded. "Tactical, what do we know about the situation?" Security Chief Alan Garcia's fingers moved quickly over his console. "Long-range scanners confirm 3 large vessels near Epsilon 9. They match known Zarkonian ship patterns. The outpost defense systems appear to be offline." Miller frowned. Intelligence reports had warned that the Zarkonians might test human borders soon. The officials back on Earth had hoped talking would stop a war. Miller had always thought this was wishful thinking. The Zarkonians didn't talk. They took. "All hands to battle stations," Miller ordered, his weathered face looking grim in the blue light of the command console. "Full speed to Epsilon 9 and get me Admiral Sawyer on a secure channel." Red alert klaxons sounded throughout the ship. The relaxed atmosphere of moments before vanished as crew members rushed to their positions. The Defiant hummed as its engines powered up to maximum. "Sir," Rodriguez said, looking up from her tactical display with concern, "the Zarkonians follow a pattern. By now they've probably disabled the outpost completely. They'll be sending their surrender demands." Miller knew she was right. The Zarkonians always offered the same deal: surrender completely or be destroyed. No negotiation, no mercy. "Incoming transmission from Earth Command," Barnes announced. "It's Admiral Sawyer." The face of Admiral Frank Sawyer appeared on screen. He was an older man with short gray hair and a permanent frown. "Miller, we just got word about Epsilon 9, the Admiral said without greeting. "What's your status?" "We're 2 hours away at maximum speed, sir." "We're the closest ship." The Admiral's frown deepened. "What's your assessment?" 3 Zarkonian warships against a small research outpost with minimal defenses," Miller replied. "The outpost won't last long if they haven't surrendered already." "Admiral," Sawyer nodded slowly. "We're gathering a response fleet, but it will take at least 12 hours to reach you. Observe only, Miller. Do not engage. I repeat, do not engage the Zarkonians. We need time to prepare a proper response." Miller felt his jaw tighten. "Sir, in 12 hours, Epsilon 9 will be gone. There are 400 scientists and support staff stationed there. I'm aware of that, Commander, Sawyer said sharply. But one ship against 3 Zarkonian warships is suicide. Your orders are to observe and report, nothing more, is that clear? Yes, sir, Miller replied stiffly. After the Admiral's face disappeared from the screen, Science Officer Olivia Reeves approached Miller. Commander, Epsilon 9 was studying Zarkonian technology. They recovered parts from a damaged scout ship last month. Miller looked at her with surprise. That wasn't in any reports I saw. It was classified, Reeves said quietly. But if the Zarkonians learn what was being studied there... She didn't need to finish. If the Zarkonians discovered humans were studying their technology, it might give them the excuse they wanted to launch a full invasion. Engineer Paul West spoke up from his station. Sir, I can push the engines harder. Might cut 20 minutes off our arrival time. Miller nodded. Do it. Rodriguez moved closer to Miller, speaking so only he could hear. Ethan, you know what the Zarkonians will do to that outpost. They'll strip it for parts and either kill the people or take them as slaves. Miller stared at the view screen, where the stars streaked by as the Defiant raced toward Epsilon 9. His hands gripped the back of his chair tightly. Sir, Rodriguez continued, what are we going to do when we get there? We can't just watch. Not this time, Miller said quietly, determination hardening his face. This time someone's going to stand up to them. The Defiant raced through space, its engines pushed beyond safe limits. On the bridge, Commander Miller watched the tactical display showing their approach to Epsilon 9. The 3 Zarkonian ships appeared as red triangles surrounding the small, blue dot of the human outpost. Status report, Miller ordered. We're still 90 minutes out, Navigator Powell replied. Engineer West says the engines are running hot, but holding. Security Chief Garcia looked up from his console. Sir, deep. Scans show the outpost defenses are completely down. Life support is still functioning, but communications are cut off. Miller nodded grimly. This followed the usual Zarkonian pattern. First, disable defenses and communications, then demand surrender, then begin taking what they wanted. Commander, Communications Officer Barnes called out, incoming transmission from Earth Command. Admiral Sawyer again. Miller straightened his uniform. On screen, Admiral Sawyer's face appeared, looking even more stressed than before. Commander Miller, we've received intelligence that the situation at Epsilon 9 is worse than we thought. How? So, sir? The research being conducted there. The Admiral paused, clearly uncomfortable discussing it over even a secure channel. Let's just say if the Zarkonians get their hands on it, it could accelerate their timetable for expansion. Miller leaned forward. All the more reason for us to intervene, sir. Absolutely not, Commander. Admiral Sawyer's voice hardened. You will maintain position at least 1 light minute from Epsilon 9 and await reinforcements. That's a direct order. The response fleet is assembling as we speak. With respect, sir, Miller argued, by the time reinforcements arrive, Epsilon 9 will be another conquered outpost and the Zarkonians will have established a foothold in our territory. The Defiant is the only ship close enough to make a difference. The Admiral's face darkened. 1 ship against 3 Zarkonian warships is suicide, Miller, you know that. They'll destroy you before you get within firing range. What I know is that every system that's surrendered has been stripped of resources and its people enslaved or killed. We've studied their tactics for years. They don't expect resistance. Nobody's ever called their bluff. This isn't the time. For heroics, Sawyer snapped. I need intel, not martyrs. 400 people, sir, Miller said quietly. Scientists, engineers, support staff, some with families. The Admiral's expression showed conflict. For a moment, Miller thought he might relent. Then Sawyer's face hardened again. Stand down, Commander, that's final. Observe only. Do not engage unless directly attacked. Earth Command out. The screen went dark. The bridge fell silent as everyone looked at Miller waiting. Miller sat in his command chair, deep in thought. Around him, the bridge crew exchanged glances but said nothing. They all knew what was at stake. After a long minute, First Officer Rodriguez approached. "Sir, we need your orders." Miller looked at his senior officers one by one. He had served, with most of them for years. They were good people, the best. They deserved a commander who followed the rules, who didn't lead them into danger when ordered not to. But the people at Epsilon 9 deserved someone who would fight for them too. Miller tapped his communication panel. "This is Commander Miller to all hands. As you know, we are approaching outpost Epsilon 9, which is currently surrounded by Zarkonian warships. I have just received direct orders from Earth Command to stand off and observe only." He paused, then continued with determination in his voice. "I believe these orders are wrong. If we do nothing, 400 of our people will be captured or killed. The Zarkonians will gain access to sensitive research and establish a base inside our territory. This cannot be allowed to happen." Miller stood up. "I am therefore going to disobey these orders. We will engage the enemy and do everything in our power to protect Epsilon 9. I take full responsibility for this decision. Any crew member who objects may log their objection officially without fear of consequence." The bridge remained silent. Then Engineer West's voice came over the comm system. "Engineering stands with you, Commander." "Security teams as well," Chief Garcia added with a nod. One by one, department heads voiced their support. No objections were raised. Rodriguez smiled, slightly. "Looks like you've got your answer, sir." Miller nodded, touched by their loyalty but also feeling the heavy weight of responsibility. "Plot an intercept course to Epsilon 9 maximum speed." "That's against direct orders," Security Chief Garcia said quietly, though there was no accusation in his voice. "Noted in the log, Chief," Miller replied. "I'll face the consequences later, if there is a later." Science Officer Reeves approached with a data pad. "Sir, I've been analyzing what we know about Zarkonian ships. There might be a weakness we can exploit." Miller studied the information. "This is interesting. Their ships are partly biological, right?" "Yes, sir," Reeves confirmed. "The Zarkonians themselves are cyborgs, part organic, part machine. Their ships are extensions of their own biology. They're all connected in some kind of network." "Like a hive mind?" Rodriguez asked, joining them. Reeves nodded. "Exactly, which means if we could disrupt that network, we could confuse them." Miller finished, a plan forming in his mind. "How close would we need to get?" "Very close," Reeves admitted. "Dangerously close." Miller turned to the weapons officer. "Do we have anything that could generate the right kind of interference?" "We might be able to modify a quantum torpedo," the officer suggested, "but it would take time." "You have 60 minutes, Miller said. "Work with Reeves and West. I want options by the time we arrive." As the officers hurried to their tasks, Miller returned to his command chair. The weight of his decision pressed on him. He had just committed an act that could end his career, possibly even lead to prison time. But he couldn't stand by and watch another world fall to the Zarkonians, not when there was a chance, however small, to make a difference. Rodriguez took her seat beside him. "Having second thoughts?" Miller shook his head. "No, just wondering if humanity has been handling this all wrong. The Zarkonians keep advancing because no one stands up to them. Everyone surrenders, hoping for mercy that never comes." "And you think the Defiant can change that?" she asked. Miller watched as the stars streaked by on the view screen. "I think someone has to try. Might as well be us." The red alert lights cast a crimson glow across the bridge as the UES Defiant raced toward its confrontation with the Zarkonian Empire, against orders, but with absolute conviction. Whatever happened next would change the course of the war one way or another. "Dropping out of FTL in 20 seconds, Navigator Powell announced, his voice tight with tension. Commander Miller nodded. "All hands, prepare for combat. Weapons hot, but hold fire until my command." The Defiant slowed from faster than light speed, the stars on the view screen shifting from streaks back to points of light. Ahead of them, the Epsilon 9 outpost came into view. It was a small research station not designed for combat. Around it loomed 3 massive Zarkonian vessels, dark and threatening. Run silent, Miller ordered. Minimal power, minimal emissions. Let's not announce ourselves yet. Engineer West's voice came over the comm. Running on low power, sir. They won't spot us easily, but we're sacrificing shields for stealth. Understood. Miller turned to Science Officer Reeves. What can you tell me about those ships? Reeves studied her readings carefully. They're definitely Zarkonian warships, sir. The largest one appears to be the command vessel. It's twice the size of the others. She adjusted her scanner. I'm detecting unusual energy patterns. Their biology is partly machine, as we suspected. The ships and the Zarkonians themselves, they're networked together in some sort of hive mind structure. Each ship functions as both vessel and extension of their consciousness. Can you confirm your theory about their weakness? Miller asked. Reeves nodded excitedly. Yes, sir. See these energy flows? They're constantly exchanging data almost like a nervous system, if we disrupt it at the right point. They'd be paralyzed, Rodriguez finished. Temporarily, at least, Reeves agreed. Their systems would likely adapt, but it might give us a window. Miller smiled grimly. A window is all we need. He turned to Security Chief Garcia. Is the package ready? The security chief nodded. Yes, sir. The quantum virus is prepped. We've modified a torpedo to deliver it, but we'll need to get extremely close to their command ship to deploy it. And by close, you mean suicidally close, Rodriguez muttered. Pretty much, Miller confirmed. How close exactly? Garcia pointed to the tactical display. This node here, it appears to be their main communication hub. We need to hit it directly. No more than 500 meters distance when we launch. A nervous murmur went through the bridge. 500 meters in space combat was practically touching. At that range, they would be completely vulnerable to the Zarkonians' weapons. How long will the disruption last? Miller asked Reeves. Based on what we know of their technology, maybe 3 minutes before their systems adapt and purge the virus. 3 minutes, Miller repeated. Not much time. Engineer West spoke up from his station. I've been thinking, sir, we might have a way to get close enough without being blasted apart immediately. He brought up a diagram on the main screen. I've modified our shield emitters to project a false energy signature. We can make ourselves look like a disabled vessel, like we limped into the system damaged and powerless. Miller looked interested. So we play dead? Exactly, West nodded. We drift in like we're crippled. Maybe even send a distress signal. They might hold their fire long enough for us to get into position. Miller considered the plan. It was risky, beyond risky. But they were already committed. How long to set it up? It's ready now, sir, West replied. Just say the word. Miller looked at each of his senior officers. Their faces showed determination mixed with fear. I won't order anyone to participate in this. It's my decision to disobey orders, not yours. If anyone wants to register an objection, now's the time. Rodriguez smiled tightly. With respect, Commander, shut up and give the order. We're all in. No one spoke up to object. Miller felt a surge of pride in his crew. All right then. West, make us look damaged. Barnes, prepare a distress signal. Make it sound desperate but not too rehearsed. Everyone else stand by for the approach. The Defiance engines flared briefly, pushing the ship toward the Zarkonian vessels and the outpost. Then the engines cut out, and the ship began to drift, emergency lights flashing along its hull. Small, controlled explosions erupted from non-critical sections, creating the appearance of battle damage. They've spotted us, Garcia reported, watching his tactical screen. 2 smaller ships are breaking formation to intercept. Hold course, Miller ordered. Weapons, prepare to launch the virus torpedo on my mark, but keep all other weapons powered down for now. The minutes crept by as the Defiant drifted closer to the Zarkonian ships. No one on the bridge spoke. The only sounds were the soft beeps of equipment and the occasional status report. 1,000 meters in closing, Powell reported. We're on a direct approach to their command ship. Barnes looked up from her station. Sir, they're scanning us. Very thorough scans. Let them look, Miller said calmly. West, how's our disguise holding up? So far, so good. the engineer replied. Engineer, our false emissions are masking our real status. As far as they can tell, we're running on emergency power only. 700 meters, Powell announced. Rodriguez leaned closer to Miller. They haven't fired on us. That's something. They're curious, Miller replied quietly. We're not following the usual pattern. Everyone either fights or runs, no one drifts right at them. 600 meters, Garcia tensed at his weapons console. Torpedo ready, sir. 550 meters. They're hailing us, Barnes announced suddenly. Miller nodded. On screen, everyone looked damaged and desperate. The view screen flickered and the image of a Zarkonian appeared. It was humanoid in basic shape, but that's where the similarity ended. Gray-green skin stretched over cybernetic implants with pulsing blue circuitry visible beneath translucent flesh. Its eyes were entirely mechanical, glowing with an eerie blue light. When it spoke, the voice was a discordant harmony of organic and synthetic tones. Human vessel, the alien said. You have entered territory now claimed by the Zarkonian Empire. Your resistance is noted. Prepare to be boarded and assimilated. Your biological and technological distinctiveness will serve the Empire. Miller tried to look scared and defeated. This is Commander Ethan Miller of the United Earthship Defiant. We suffered drive core damage while responding to a distress call. Our weapons are offline. We request assistance. The Zarkonian's expression didn't change. Couldn't change, given its cybernetic nature. Scans indicate deception. Weapons powering up. 500 meters, Powell called out. Now west, Miller shouted. The engineer slammed the controls forward and the Defiant's engines roared to life. The surprised Zarkonians couldn't react quickly enough to the suddenly functioning ship. The Defiant surged forward, closing the final distance to the command ship's central node. Fire, Miller ordered. Virus torpedo away, Garcia called as they scraped alongside the massive alien vessel, their modified weapon embedding itself in the hull. For 3 agonizing seconds, nothing happened. The bridge crew held their breath. Then the lights on the Zarkonian ships began to flicker. Their movement became erratic. It's working, Reeves exclaimed. Their network is disrupting. We have 2 minutes and 40 seconds before they recover. Miller didn't waste the opportunity. All weapons, fire at designated weak points. Rodriguez, signal Epsilon 9 survivors to execute emergency evacuation protocol. The battle had begun, and for the first time in the long war against the Zarkonians, a human ship had landed the first blow. Target the propulsion systems on the smaller vessels first, Miller ordered as the Defiant banked hard to avoid enemy fire. The bridge shook violently as a Zarkonian energy beam grazed their hull. Warning lights flashed across multiple consoles. Hull, breach on deck 4, someone shouted. Emergency force fields holding. The Defiant may have landed the first blow, but the Zarkonians were far from defeated. While their network was temporarily disrupted by the quantum virus, their weapons still functioned. The massive alien ships were firing wildly, their shots less coordinated than usual but still deadly. 2 minutes left before their systems recover, Reeves called out, watching the countdown on her screen. Miller gripped his chair as another blast rocked the ship. Status on Epsilon 9 evacuation? Rodriguez checked her console. Emergency shuttles launching now. 23 so far. Approximately 100 personnel evacuated. 300 still on the station. The Defiant swooped toward one of the smaller Zarkonian ships, firing a barrage of energy torpedoes at specific points along its hull. The alien vessel shuddered as multiple explosions bloomed across its surface. Direct hits, Garcia reported, excitedly. Their propulsion is damaged. Keep firing, Miller ordered. We need to take advantage of their confusion while we can. Engineer West's voice came over the comm system. Commander, the shields can't take much more of this. We're already at 60% capacity. Understood. Navigation, keep us moving. Don't let them get a solid lock. Powell nodded grimly. Doing my best, sir, but these Zarkonian ships are faster than intelligence reported. The battle continued to rage. The Defiant darted between the massive alien vessels, firing precisely, at weak points identified by Reeves's scans. On screen, more evacuation shuttles could be seen fleeing from Epsilon 9, racing toward the safety of deeper human space. 1 minute until they recover, Reeves warned. Miller knew they were running out of time. Once the Zarkonians purged the virus from their systems, their attacks would become coordinated again. The Defiant wouldn't stand a chance against 3 fully functional enemy ships. "Sir," Barnes called out. "Incoming transmission from the Zarkonian command ship." Miller was surprised. "Put it through." The alien commander appeared on screen again. Despite its mostly mechanical face, Miller could see rage in its glowing eyes. "Human vessel," the Zarkonian said, its voice even more distorted than before. "Your attack is meaningless, your resistance is flawed, we cannot be stopped. You have merely delayed the inevitable." Miller didn't back down. "Yet here we are, 1 ship holding off 3 of yours. Maybe you're not as unstoppable as you think. We adapt. We evolve. Your virus will fail in 42 seconds. Then you will be destroyed." "Maybe," Miller agreed. "But we've already evacuated half the outpost. Those people are beyond your reach now." The Zarkonian seemed to smile, though it was more like a mechanical twitch of its face. "The outpost is not our target. The data it contains is insignificant. You are our target now." The transmission cut off abruptly. Miller felt a chill run down his spine. "Sir," Rodriguez said quietly, "I think we just became the experiment." Miller nodded grimly. "They want to know how we created the virus. They're more interested in us than the outpost now." He turned to Garcia. "Do we have any more surprises for them?" Garcia checked his weapons console. "We have 2 modified quantum torpedoes left, but they won't fall for the same trick twice." 30 seconds, Reeves announced. Miller made a quick decision. "New plan. Powell, set course for the damaged Zarkonian ship. Full speed, attack pattern Delta." Powell looked surprised but entered the commands. "Course set, attack pattern Delta." Garcia, arm both remaining torpedoes. Target their central power core. The security chief's eyes widened. "Sir, at that range, the explosion will damage us too." "I'm counting on it," Miller replied. "West, how are the engines?" "Push to the limit, sir, but they'll give you what you need." Rodriguez signaled the remaining evacuation shuttles to adjust their escape vector. "Tell them to head for the system's outer boundary, not toward Earth space." As the crew hurried to follow orders, Miller turned to Reeves. "Time? 15 seconds until they recover," she replied tensely. Miller opened a ship-wide channel. "All hands brace for impact and prepare for emergency maneuvers. This is going to be close." The Defiant accelerated toward the damaged Zarkonian vessel, which was trying to restore its propulsion systems. The other 2 alien ships began to move, with more coordination, their random firing patterns becoming more precise. 10 seconds. Incoming fire. 3 torpedoes bearing 270. Evasive maneuvers. Stay on course. 5 seconds. The Defiant shook violently as an enemy torpedo struck their rear shields. Several consoles exploded in showers of sparks. Shields. Down to 30%. 2 seconds. "Fire torpedoes," Miller ordered. Garcia stabbed the launch button. "Torpedoes away." 2 glowing projectiles shot from the Defiant toward the damaged Zarkonian ship. At the same moment, the countdown reached 0. "They're recovering," Reeves shouted. "Network disruption ending." Miller gripped his chair. "All hands brace for impact. Powell, get us out of here. Maximum thrust." The torpedoes struck the Zarkonian vessel's power core. For a split second, nothing happened. Then the alien ship erupted in a massive explosion, its core detonating with far more force than even Miller had anticipated. The shockwave rushed outward, catching the Defiant as it tried to escape. The bridge seemed to flip upside down as the blast wave hit them. Crew members were thrown from their stations. Panels exploded. The lights failed, plunging everything into darkness until the emergency systems activated with a dull red glow. Miller picked himself up from the floor, blood trickling from a cut on his forehead. "Status report." West's voice came over the emergency channel filled with static. "Main power down, engines offline, we're running on emergency systems only." "Casualties?" Miller asked, helping Rodriguez back to her feet. "Reports coming in from all decks," she replied, wiping blood from her own face. "At least 12 confirmed dead, many more injured." Miller looked at the view screen. which was flickering with damage but still functioning. The destroyed Zarkonian ship was nothing but expanding debris, but the other two enemy vessels were still there, and they were moving toward the Defiant with deadly purpose. "Weapons?" Miller asked Garcia. The security chief shook his head. "Weapon, systems offline. We've got nothing left to fight with, sir." Miller stared at the approaching enemy ships. They had destroyed one Zarkonian vessel, something no human ship had ever accomplished before, but it had cost them dearly. Without engines, weapons, or shields, they were defenseless. "Sir," Barnes called out weakly from her damaged communications station. "I'm picking up something strange, new contacts appearing at the edge of the system." Miller frowned. "Zarkonian reinforcements?" "No, sir." Barnes looked up with surprise in her eyes. "They're ours. Human signatures. A lot of them." The view screen shifted to show the edge of the system, where multiple flashes of light indicated ships dropping out of FTL. One after another, human vessels appeared. Warships, cruisers, destroyers. Admiral Sawyer's voice came through the crackling communications system. "Defiant, this is Admiral Sawyer aboard the UES Indomitable. Looks like you started the party without us. Hold tight, Commander. We'll take it from here." Miller sank back into his chair, relief washing over him. "Copy that, Admiral. We'll just sit here and watch if you don't mind." As the human fleet engaged the remaining Zarkonian ships, Miller looked around at his battered bridge and wounded crew. They had held the line. Against impossible odds, they had stood up to the enemy that no one else would face, and they had proven that the Zarkonians could be beaten. 2 weeks after the battle at Epsilon 9, the UES Defiant limped into Earth's space dock. Despite emergency repairs, the ship still showed heavy damage from the fight. Its hull was scarred with burn marks and patches. Several sections remained, sealed off due to damage. Commander Miller stood by the main viewport watching as repair crew swarmed around the outside of his ship. The final count had been grim. 17 crew members dead, 34 injured. But they had saved most of the people at Epsilon 9 and destroyed a Zarkonian warship, the first time in history that humans had managed such a feat. "Commander, they're ready for you," First Officer Rodriguez said, approaching him. Her arm was in a sling from an injury during the battle. Miller nodded. "Time to face the music." "We all stand with you, sir," Rodriguez assured him. "Every crew member has submitted a statement supporting your decision." Miller smiled gratefully. "Thank you, Lisa, but this one's on me. I made the call." The two officers walked through the quiet halls of Earth Command headquarters. Miller had been summoned to appear before a panel of admirals, including Sawyer. He was prepared for the worst. Disobeying direct orders, even if successful, usually meant the end of a career. The hearing room was large and formal. 5 admirals, including Sawyer, sat behind a long table. Miller stood at attention before them, alone. "Commander Ethan Miller," began Admiral Chen, the head of the panel. "You stand before this board to answer for your actions at Epsilon 9. Do you understand the severity of disobeying direct orders?" "Yes, Admiral, I do," Miller replied calmly. Admiral Sawyer leaned forward. "Commander, you were explicitly ordered not to engage the Zarkonian vessels. Instead, you took your ship into battle against 3 enemy warships. You risked the lives of your crew and the loss of your ship." Miller stood straight. "Yes, sir. You also," Sawyer continued, his expression unreadable, "saved 347 personnel from Epsilon 9, destroyed a Zarkonian warship, and provided invaluable tactical data on Zarkonian weaknesses." Miller blinked in surprise. Admiral Chen's stern expression softened slightly. "Commander Miller, this board has reviewed all the evidence. We've interviewed your crew and analyzed the battle data. Based on our findings, we have no choice but to promote you to captain and give you command of our new advanced destroyer, the UES Intrepid." For a moment, Miller thought he had misheard. "Sir?" Admiral Sawyer stood up. "Your actions have had unforeseen consequences, Miller. Word has spread throughout the galaxy. 3 systems previously under Zarkonian control have risen up in rebellion. They heard about what one human ship did at Epsilon 9, and it gave them hope. The Zarkonians' reputation for invincibility has been damaged, Admiral Chen added. For the first time, others are fighting back. Miller absorbed this news with astonishment. I had no idea. Sawyer approached him. Captain Miller, the data recovered from Epsilon 9, combined with what your science officer Reeves discovered about the Zarkonians, has given us critical information. The virus you deployed revealed something important. The Zarkonians aren't invading to expand territory, Miller said, recalling Reeves's analysis. They're desperate. Their cybernetic evolution has reached its limits. They need new biological material, new species, to continue advancing. Exactly, Sawyer nodded. Which means they can be stopped. They're not as all-powerful as they want everyone to believe. Admiral Chen joined them. Your single act of defiance created a crack in their facade of invincibility. Sometimes, Captain, that's all an oppressed people need, to see that the invincible can bleed. As Miller left the Admiralty building, he was met by his senior officers, all waiting to hear the result. Their worried expressions turned to joy as he told them the news. Later that evening, Miller received a transmission on his personal communicator. It was from an unknown source, encrypted with a method he'd never seen before. The message was simple. From the Galactic Alliance of Free Systems. Thank you for showing us the way. The resistance has begun. Miller smiled as he looked out his window at the stars. Out there, something had changed. One human ship had said no, and the galaxy had listened. The war was far from over, but for the first time, there was hope. The days of easy conquest for the Zarkonians were finished. Sometimes all it took was one ship, one crew, and the courage to stand against impossible odds.